Hello plumbers. If you're looking at this video, then you've come to a stage in your training where we are actually going to insert lines and equipment symbols that represent the equipment in an as-built drawing. You should have in front of you or beside you, either on the screen or in a printed format, an actual copy of the finished drawing that we will be actually producing. Now, in the real world, this won't be a finished drawing. You'll probably just have a thumbnail sketch that you've done on site or some data that you've collected on site, and you'll be adding your information based on that. So your screen should look very similar to mine, and you will see in this screen that we have got a legend of symbols, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm holding my cursor over an area of the drawing that I wish to zoom in on, and I'm rolling my mouse towards me. And as I zoom in, you'll see I've also got grid points and grid markers, basically, that show where lines would snap if I was to be drawing lines. So let's just very quickly show what these grid points do. And the first thing I'll do, this is before, I'm not going to draw any correct line at this point. I'm drawing a black line, so I'm going to come down here to the very bottom of my screen. If you look down the bottom, there's a clone command. I'm going to click on the clone command, and then I'm going to pick a line that I wish to clone from. Now notice that as my cursor comes over the top of the line, a little diamond appears at my cursor, and this indicates I have actually selected, or I am able to select, the item underneath it. If I go click, I've now briefly selected this line, and its properties, that is the layer, the color, the line style and the line thickness, have now been selected, and they now show up down the bottom here. This is the visual appearance of it, and it's actually a 0.25 line. It's in a 0 line style, which happens to be a solid line. It's from a layer called title sheet, and it's in color number 9, which happens to be, as you can see here, black. If I then go up to my upper left and I choose the line tools, and I then choose the very first one, this is the one that you will use 90% of the time when you're drawing, insert a line. I look at the prompt and it basically says select the start of the line. Now these little dots, if I click, even if I'm not near a dot, if I click it will jump to a dot. And as I move, you can see that I'm getting 100mm increments in the length of the line that I'm drawing. Now we've currently got this system set to show 4 decimal places, which is way too many. So I'm actually going to make that change before we go any further. Going up to my settings, and I'm going to change from 4 decimal places to 0. We don't need any decimal places for the type of drawing that we're going to create. So this is the numeric display precision. It's not how precise the software works, it's just how many numbers display on the screen. And you can see here there are 4 decimal places here. Anyway, that's an aside. Once I've selected what I want, I choose OK, and you'll notice now that it's only displaying the whole numbers. If I'm happy with 1800, I would click again and it will start again. And of course, if I go at the diagonal, my lengths are going to be the hypotenuse of 100mm, and that's at 45 degrees. And then again, I could come across here, and as you can see, I just keep clicking and it keeps jumping. You can see it jumping. And when I finish clicking, if I've finished my line, I click on the right hand mouse button and it lets go. It's still in the command. If you look up here, I've only clicked the right mouse button once. If I look up here, it says select the start of the line. I'm ready to start a brand new line. So I could start a new line here and start drawing in this direction and in this direction. So very quick and easy, and this is one of the reasons we like to have the grid switched on. It's easier to zoom in and work with the grid points. If you are a long way out, not a problem, but the grid points will disappear, and you're not 100% certain if you're on the complete horizontal until you can kind of get it. You can kind of see that that's horizontal. If you wanted to force that line not to accidentally be slightly at an angle, either up or down, you can press the shift key. And by holding the shift key down, it will force that line to be horizontal, even though my cursor is not in line, is not at the horizontal. It will keep that line in the horizontal until I reach a 45-degree point. So as you can see, that's 45 degrees. If I move down here, it'll jump down to there. If I move all the way around, I'll get a vertical. But this is because I'm holding down the Shift key. So holding the Shift key, I might want my line to extend along here, come up to 45, come up to here, and so on. So it's very quick to do your drawing, okay? And when you're finished, as I say, right-click to hop out. If I right-click a second time, then I am out of the command altogether and I can't draw lines anymore. So if you find you're not able to draw any lines, it's because you don't actually have a command active. So this command is not active, and the prompt, which we always encourage you to keep looking at, says select the command or some entities. I've drawn some extra lines that I don't need. I can use the undo key, of course, to wind back through the lines I've drawn. But I literally just wanted to show you how we will be inserting our sewer and our stormwater lines into this drawing. Let's fit back to the screen. So let's repeat that whole exercise, but we'll put some real lines in. You have to decide at some point where you're going to start drawing. So I'm going to start drawing by putting in some blue lines, and the blue lines are stormwater lines, and I'm going to start at this little shed or garage, but I need the best practice would be to actually set my line style to be that of a stormwater. Now if we come up to the legend here, and I'll zoom in on it, you can see that this line style, oh by the way, we don't have to see the dots. We can still snap to these lines but without seeing the dots. If I come up to the grid option, it will display this box where I can see that snapping to the grid is switched on. So that's why it was snapping, and the display of the grid is switched on. You can change the display, by the way, from being little dots to actually being lines as if you had graph paper. But I actually prefer to switch the display off, so I'm going to display the grid off, but it will still snap to the imaginary point. So when I hit OK, this grid will appear to disappear, and at the top of your screen you can see what the current status is. The grid snap is on and the grid itself, or the grid display, is on. But the moment I hit this button, the grid display is switched off, so this will change to grid off and the grid will disappear. So hit OK. The grid has gone, and up here it says the grid is off. But if I'm drawing lines, and you'll see this, it's still snapping to 100mm increments. Okay, zoom in on a bit. So I'm still snapping, as you can see it jumping to each of the grid points that are actually there, you just can't see them. Okay, so before we start drawing our stormwater line, I'm going to use the same tool I did before for cloning, and I'm going to clone that stormwater line. And if I look down here now, that's the type of line that I'll be drawing in. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit, press the middle mouse button down, which is the wheel, drag my sheet across to the right so I can zoom in a little bit here, because I wish to, and I'm looking at the sheet because I'm doing the same as you, I'm just looking at a printed copy, and I'm going to be putting in a horizontal line that starts at the corner of here. So go to my lines, click where I think I want to start, that's fine, I'm happy with that. Come across to where I think I want to come, which I think is going to be about there, and I'm going to hold the Shift key down just to make sure that I'm horizontal, and I'm kind of happy with my line sitting there because that's maybe where the elbow should be. I'm going to continue down to where I think another horizontal line will need to go a little bit later, and it doesn't matter if I'm either too short or too long. I just know that I really want a line to come down in this direction. It doesn't have to meet anything at this point. So I'm just going to click a position because I'm happy with that position there, and right click out of there. The next stage, I'm going to put in a pit that is on the patio, and it starts at this location. It comes up, and you can be very, very accurate with this, but for this training we are just trying to learn the basics. So we're going to come up 1800, and I'm going to go click. I'm going to come across at 45, so again hold down the Shift key, it forces it to be where I want it to be, so I'm going to hold that down there, click in about that position. Then I'm going to come horizontally across all the way, and I know that it comes to around about here on the block. So it's actually up around here, and 18 meters, 450. Then I know, and I'm still in the middle of the command, okay? I want to get further down here and I can't see how far I need to come down. It's off the page. So I'm still in the middle. I can still press down on the wheel. So pressing down on the wheel, the middle mouse button. I want to reposition my drawing up here. And I know that this line comes down in this direction. And it comes, I'm pretty certain that when we were digging the trench, it came across here. In fact, I know that we missed this porch, so I know pretty much that it's in this direction here. And in fact, it's around about here. And again, I don't have to be spot on because we can trim. In other words, we can make the lines longer or shorter later. You don't have to be spot on straight away. And it's going to join up with another line that I had further down there. Okay. Next stage, there's a down pipe. I'm going to right click out of this one. There's a down pipe in this corner of the house here. It comes up, and I'm holding down the shift key to ensure that it is at vertical, and I've got a meter. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can kind of see where I'm heading, and I'm going to come up in this direction. Now what I don't want to happen, if I click here, you'll see my cursor is a diamond. Now if I click when a diamond is showing, so I'm on this line, if I click when a diamond is showing, it will, instead of putting the line where I see it, it will force the line to be at right angles and end up being straight up. I'll show you what I mean and then we'll undo it. So there's my diamond. You can kind of see that. I click and all of a sudden the line jumps at right angles because that's what the diamond does when you are drawing. So I'm going to press undo and that will take me back. I do want my line to come up here at 45, so I'm going to hold the shift key down. I don't need it to go, well, I can make it go past and beyond, but I can also force it or prevent it from having the diamond by also pressing the control key or the command key if I have a Mac. And you'll see that no diamond appears. So this way I can be much more controlled. So the idea behind the control key is it gives you more control. Right click to finish. Okay, so there's my lines in for that top section. There's also a stormwater for this shed. Again, you see me panning around. This is me just pressing down on my mouse wheel and moving around. You'll also see that this line doesn't extend far enough yet, and we'll come to that in a minute. So I know I've got a down pipe which was here, and it needs to come out to the right a little. For appearance, I'm going to come out here one step, and then I'm going to draw it up in this direction, and again get to about 2400. That's fine. Come up at 45 degrees, and again I don't have a diamond showing, so I'm safe to click, and I'm very happy that that is where the pipe runs. You can place the symbols first if you like, or you can place the line work that represents the piping first. I think placing the pipe is potentially better in my opinion. I think it's then easier then to locate where you want the symbols that represent either the inspection openings or down pipes or drains and pits and so on to be put in later. But it's a personal choice and it's something you can do whenever you like. There's an interesting one. We'll come down the bottom here. There's a couple of lines that we've got to put in here. There's a down pipe just here on the edge of the building. So I'm going to click here. I know it went underneath this deck, so I'm going to click here at 45, hold down my button. It's fairly close to the edge. You can see that it's fairly close there. Holding down the shift key will ensure that I'm definitely a straight line. I'll come down here, cut across, and then I also know that we then came out at a slightly obscure angle, and just outside this bathroom region was roughly where we were when we were on site. You can put specific measurements in here. Don't be afraid to think that like you have to be able to do that kind of thing. So we do have that ability, and we can show that a little bit later. But for this exercise, we just want you to get used to the idea of clicking and placing your line work. So there's an inspection pit there, which we'll look at later. And then we had a horizontal line or a pipe run that went all the way out to the street. So again, freely hold down my middle mouse button just to pan across. You'll get used to this whole concept of moving and panning. I mean, if you've got a massive screen and you've got really good eyesight, then you probably won't need to pan quite as often as I do. And I'll come out to here. I'm zooming out a little bit. I just want to see roughly where it is. I do recall that we're right out in the street. Again, I want it to be straight. Hold down the shift key, come out to where this line is, and it's there. And that's all I needed for that line. This straight line actually comes right up here, and it's actually parallel to the street. And you'll notice that the street itself, and you can kind of see this in, it's only an example, but that line is not vertical. Okay, so that line there isn't vertical, and you can see that because it's got these little steps in it, which means it's slightly leaning over to one side. Now, you don't, I'm sure you don't have to put the street pipe in there, 100% accurately in your as-built drawing for this block of land. But if you did want to, it would certainly be possible to offset this line with another copy and do it that way. In my case, I'm just going to draw a line which I know starts, here and comes up at a vertical size up there and out in that direction. So there's my pipe. This one needs to come down here. It needs to be a bit longer in this direction. So I may as well show you one method of lengthening a line, and that is to select the line, grab hold of its little end point. So I just move my cursor to the end point, click down on my mouse, and I've actually got the line hanging off my cursor here. Okay, and I can again hold down the shift key, just drag it down to where I want it to be, and then let go, and the line will have moved down. Now that's not the best way to do a trim command or a lengthening, but it's a way of doing it. Now, something I also didn't do correctly was here there should be a 45-degree line across here. So I'm going to go up to my line tools, upper left corner, and I'm going to draw another line. I don't want to use that diamond because that diamond will force my line to be vertical, hanging off of this selected line. So right click out of there, I don't want that. How do I do it? I hold down the Control or Command key on a Mac and click pretty close to where I want it to be. It'll jump on because remember we've got the grid switched on. I want it to come at 45, so I hold down the Shift, and again, so I've got the Shift and the Control key down, and I go click, and now I'm very happy that that line is in there. We're going to get rid of this little bit here, and if we use the same command as the other one, we could select it, grab its little end point, and jump it on the end there. Now you'll notice, can you see that I've got a square? The little square on the end of my cursor means it's found the end of a line. If I let go now, I'm confident that the end of this line has snapped to the end of this other 45-degree line, and you can see if I zoom really close, it's still a connection. Zooming back out again. So we're pretty well right for the blue line coming from the downpipe. We do have a hot water system that's got to go on here as well, and that is further down, and if I remember, I think it's here. So again, I'm in the middle of, I'll come up and select here, and I'll click on this point, and I want my line to come out here. As I say, it doesn't have to be at 45 degrees. There's no reason it has to be at 45. I think it looks neater. So again, hold down the Shift key, come here and go click. And as you can see, this one went too far. So this one would be a good position for me to show you how to trim a piece off the line. Hold your cursor over the line towards the end that you wish to trim. Okay, so past its halfway mark. Wait for a diamond. This time press the right-hand mouse button and a new menu will appear with some options. Choose the word trim, and you now have the ability to make the line longer or shorter, or select a line specifically that you wish it to trim to, and that line is neatly trimmed to this one. Don't be concerned that there are gaps in a line. This line is still there. It's an invisible line. As you can see, it's invisible, but the line is solid. So if I was to select it, you can see that it actually, it is a continuous object. It's not made up of multiple little lines. It just looks that way. It's just a method of displaying it. Okay, moving right along to the next stage. we now need to add in, I believe, oh yes, we've got the stormwater pit that comes all the way around from both, well, basically from this battered bank. So we've got a stormwater line that runs around the base of this battered bank and happens to feed off in this direction and into this pit. So let's start with this pit as our starting point. Click here, come really close. I like to come really close so you can see what I'm doing. There's a corner here, right here, there's a corner where this horizontal line meets this angled line, and I can snap to the corner when I get that square. I know I'm there, but of course if I've got the grid switched on, it's going to snap pretty close anyway. So it has snapped to the end, and we then can draw where we want that line to go. So I'm going to come out here to about that location. Then I'm going to follow by eye, and I'm going to go beyond where I need to go. I'm actually going to end up with an arc running around here. So we've got a bit of bent pipe wrapped around the base of this area. But at the moment, I just want to go past it. Okay, and there looks like it's an acceptable place. No, probably that's a little bit neater there. And I'll go click. I'm going to right click out of there, okay, because I'm in straight line drawing mode. I can't draw an arc when I'm in straight line drawing mode. So I'm going to add my arcs later, and I'll show you a method that we can do that. So there's also a line nice and close to this one, and again it extends beyond where it needs to. Hold down the shift key because I know it's kind of vertical. I'm going to make it longer than I need it to be, and you'll kind of see why in a second. I'm going to right click out of there, and I'm then going to put in another line, again longer than I need to, that extends up along here, and I know that it comes up to about there, and then it runs into here. Now again, I don't want the diamond to see the diamond here. I don't want it to snap to that because otherwise it'll jump to be right angles. So I hold down the control key and click. So whoops, I'm in the wrong spot. I'm going to go Control Z, which undoes where I'm at. I could have used the undo button, but Control Z does exactly the same, and so Command Z does in a Mac machine. Again, hold down the control key, and I actually want there to be it. Well, that would appear to be then where there is a snapping point. So I'd say that this blue line isn't actually snapped to a grid point, or it's 100 mils away from where I've just clicked. How do I fix it? Right click, trim to here. So now I feel much more comfortable that that's directly in a line. Not that it really, again, needs to be, and I've got the trim command still active from using it here. It's still active. I can use this one and trim it down, because I'm making something longer or extending it and shortening it is still called trim. Click here, and I now know that that one's joined to where it should be as well. Okay, how do we put in the arc that wraps around here? There are several ways, so let's go up to our menu. You may recall, if you looked at these menus earlier, that this is where you find circles, arcs and ellipses. So click on this part of the menu, the top, the parent part of the menu, and look for something similar to what you're after. So I've got arcs here. Now this one looks like it would probably do the job, and it will. I could also use a circle and then trim the circle to become an arc, so I could trim a piece out of the circle. But let's try the arc tool first. And I'm going to click on the circle, on this line rather. By the way, it's asking me to locate the start of the arc, so I just have to click anywhere on this line. And I click anywhere on this line, and then I end up with a rubbery band. Okay, depending on where I move as to where this arc will sit. So all I've got to do is decide whereabouts I want it to sit, and I'm happy with it in that position. I go click, and I've now got an arc that extends too far, a line here that extends too far, and a tiny bit of line that extends too far here. What do? Same trim that we did before. Right click on the object, select the word trim, trim it back to another object, and that's trim to that. I'm going to zoom in so you can see more clearly. I want to trim that back to this arc, and I want to trim this line back to this arc. So now I know that I have a very neat area and a neat finish. Let's use that same command again. Arc by 3 points. Pick the line, figure out where I want it to go, just by moving around. You can see it flickering. I'm kind of happy with it when it's that big. And that's all I'm after, by the way. I'm just pulling out to make it either a bigger arc or a smaller arc. And I'm happy with that. I think that'll look neat. Click and right click on the arc, select trim, trim it back to this blue line, trim this end of the blue line back to this arc, trim this line, and I don't have to be on the outside, I could be here. It still knows I'm trimming this bottom end of the line back to this. So now I have my blue lines completed. I can add my red lines. Let's do that next. I think the best way to approach drawing the red lines in this instance as part of our instructions is to repeat what we did for the blue line. So I'm going to roll out a little bit, zoom out. Let's bring that down here. I'm going to use the clone command again, so click on the clone command at the bottom. If you are running the Plumbers version of this software, when you click on here, you'll actually have a choice of the right line style sitting here. I've currently got an architectural version of the software, so this is not appropriate for you guys. But when you have the plumbing version, this list will show up as things like existing pipework, sewer and stormwater, etc. And when you choose it from here, it's a bit the same as selecting this tool, the clone tool, and then selecting this line here up in the legend, which is my sewer line. Sewer lines are just a dotted line, so they're not dashed and dots, it's just bunches of dashes basically, sorry. And they're red, so we're now in drawing red mode, so we're ready to start drawing some red lines. So let's again do exactly what we did before. We have a couple of choices now though, that because we've got some lines in position, we could just copy these lines, or some of them, and offset them so that they are parallel to each other, and then trim them. So I could do that, and we should possibly do that. In fact, I think we will do that. For this line, hold down the Shift or Control key to select two lines. Now they're joined at this corner. Then I'm going to use the Transform tool and Offset. So this is where I can offset a series of lines or a single line by wherever I click, basically. And it wants to know, do I want round corners? And I say no, just leave that unticked, choose OK. One of these lines will be highlighted, and it's this one, and it just wants to know where, relative to this one, where do I want this second line to go? Well, I actually want it to go probably about here. So you can see that I've now got a duplicate of this line and this one, offset by where I clicked, and they are direct copies, but they're done in the current line style because that's how we're drawing. I'm going to right click out of there, right click one more time, and it takes us back to where we were. Now you'll notice this line is too long, okay, if you look at the drawing that we're working on. So I'm now going to, guess what, right click on this, trim it, and trim it back to where I know it comes to, which is there, and click down on my middle mouse button, come up to here, and I know that this end of my line is going to join up with some sort of a line that's going to come through here. In fact, I could probably, and should probably, do a repeat of what I've just done with the offset command for my sewer line that's parallel to this one. So let's choose that, come up to here, same as we did before, select OK, pick where we want it to go, and I'm going to put my sewer line just there. And in fact, I know that this sewer line shouldn't be under the deck. It wasn't under the deck when we installed it. It was just to the outside. So I'm actually going to right click out of where I am a few times till I have no command active. You can see that there's no command active because the prompt is green and it says to select the command or entities. I'm going to literally just click on this and move it down with my mouse. Just hold down the button and drag it down to where I want it to be. And I actually want it to be just there, right against the deck line. And right click out. And of course I'm going to right click on this and trim that to meet there. Okay, happy with that. I'm going to do the same with this line. Make a duplicate copy and place that out in the street a little bit closer. So there's my red line, and I'll repeat that for this one as well. Take that line and make a duplicate copy just over here, and I'll pop it about there. Then all I've got to do, right click out, right click on the edge, trim to this line, trim this one to this line, and oh, in fact no, this line shouldn't trim, this one actually does come past, it's out in the street, comes back out, so I've redone that length there. And this line, if I recall, comes, yeah, actually I think this is actually in the right spot, roughly speaking. Pretty sure it is. So now I probably want to just use my freehand line, so choose the Parent Lines tool, go to Insert Line, same as we used before, and let's finish the drawing off. Let's close in on this bathroom region, make our lives easier. Zooming in makes a big difference to how easy it is for you to work. So I'm going to work to this line, snapping to the end of the line. I could hold down the Shift key to get my 45, which is fine, I'm happy to do that. I actually think it needs to go back a little bit. I'm actually going to right click out of there. I'm not happy with that position. I'm going to start my line here, but again I don't want it to be at right angles, so I'm going to hold down the Control key. Okay, and you'll see that that gives me a start position without being at right angles. Wasn't selecting this red line. Press down the Shift, gives me a 45, that takes me to there. I'm going to come up to here, across to, well, in fact I might just come across to, that's a good point. In fact, this is an incorrect symbol of the type of shower that was in there. I'm going to right click, I'm going to select this shower, and actually, well, I can't delete it, it's part of the whole drawing. It can be done, but it's not part of this training to show you exactly how that's done. What I might do then is just right click here. Oh, I see that comes up to here. I'm going to trim that a little bit longer, come up to about there. Then I'm going to choose my lines again, click here, 45, and then back into here. Right click to finish. So that's where it should sit. We had the hand basin, which was here, comes into this direction, and again at 45, hold down the Control key, and I've got that line in, and we have the bath, which was a direct connection from here, and in fact that is also at 45, so hold down the Shift, forces it into that position, hold down the Control so I'm not snapping to the line, and click, and I'm very happy with the location of those items. And then we've got our WC, so I'll pop my line in here for the WC, comes through the wall, out to there, hold down the Control key and the Shift key, come to this line and click. You can see I've overextended. We can use the trim. I'll come back and trim that. Oh no, I'll trim now. It's debatable as to whether it's better to do things now or later. In fact, I will do it later. I'll now choose this laundry pipe, comes in through here, hold down the Shift key to make sure it's dead straight, and again probably come in alignment with this one, so about there, come across here and click into that position. So I've basically made the same mistake on this line and this line. I've overrun them just based on the position of my cursor at the time. So right click, trim to here, it's still active, trim this line. I have to make sure I'm past its halfway mark. You'll see the halfway mark when the cursor changes to a little dot. So there is a little dot there somewhere. Anyway, I'm going to trim here back to this line. So at least I know it's neatly in position. What else do we have that also has to be put in? Ah yes, zoom out a little, scroll down a little bit, and we'll come into the kitchen and the ensuite. So we've got kitchen and ensuite. These guys join up as well. So back to my lines up in the upper left hand corner, and we'll add in some lines. Now just watch basically, I'll talk a little less now and hold down the Shift key, and I know that that needs to come in here for the sink, and about there, and then down here, and it stops there at the sink, and there's also a line into the dishwasher which was there. Right click to finish, and same idea for what was going on in the ensuite. Let's zoom out a fraction. So we've got our shower water, and I'm following off the drawing that you guys have got as well. So do that. That runs all the way out here and then comes across to there. Right click to finish, and then we've got our pipe coming through here to there. Hold down the shift key to get my 45, but make sure I'm not snapping or not accidentally selecting the red line. And finally another drawing here, here, here. Right click to finish. Alright, so your drawing, if you've edited it correctly, may or may not have text in it. But if you do need to edit this, it has to be exploded first. And we're not going to do it here, but if you had to, okay, you would go to the tools in that are hidden underneath the scissors, and there's a bomb, which is an explode command, and basically it breaks this one object, this component that we inserted into the drawing, it breaks it back down into its original entities, the text, the lines, and the surface hatching. So that all gets broken back, and because it's then broken down, you can edit it and move it just as if it was the original drawing that you were working on. All right, have we got all the lines in? Is there anything missing? Double check, be very careful not to miss anything. And I don't think we have missed anything at this point, so I think we've got all the line work in. Stage 2 is to put the symbols in. So let's do that next. So whilst we're drawing the red sewer lines, we should probably be putting in the red symbols rather than switching over to the blue at this point. So if you look closely, you'll see well, let's look here at the sink. There's going to be some little circles that extend here, and on the corner right here there should be an ellipse, which is an inspection opening. The symbol for an inspection opening should be an ellipse. It can also be a circle, depending on in what area you're in, but we're going to use an ellipse for the purposes of the training. You will also notice some arrows that indicate the flow of, they're not on here yet, but there are arrows to be placed on here, and they indicate the flow of, or the direction of flow. And in the short term, I think the simplest thing is to place the symbols that represent the I/O. And we'll do that by just grabbing one from here. Now, because it's just an ellipse, we can draw an ellipse using one of the elliptical tool just here, and we could just draw the ellipse here and actually specify a size for the object. And I don't exactly know what that should be, but let me try 200 by 100 and just see how big that looks. And if we were to draw, you'll notice it's not a whole ellipse at this point, and that's because we're working in a dashed line style. So before we do anything at all, let's double check the line style, and there's our dash line style. Choose this one, so I went down here to pick it, select OK, and now you'll see the whole ellipse. Now, is that the right size? Well, it's very close to that one, so it probably is. So with this one, let's show you both methods. One is drawing an ellipse, and two is to copy an ellipse that's already in existence. So it wants to know where I'm going to place it. So it's right on the corner here. So I'll click a position, probably there actually, and then I'm going to rotate my ellipse to about that position there. What I then want to do is right click and trim back to there. Select that and trim it back to there. That way it looks neater, and I'm happier with that end result. You can obviously move the ellipse around. It doesn't have to be in the same location. Okay, you've got the ability to move it and retrim. And because we've got the grid switched on, we don't have a lot of freedom of movement. We've got these 100mm increments. That can be switched off, but right now it's really good just to leave it in position. So very happy with that location. That looks fine to me. Let's also show the more traditional method, which is to just grab hold of an existing ellipse or an existing symbol by clicking on it. So I'm up here in the right hand corner, this thing here. Okay, that's only an ellipse anyway. Okay, I'm showing it to you. I'm picking this size because I think this one's too big for the scale of the drawing. So we've provided these 3 different colours, and basically all we've got to do is drag this into position. But when we drag, if I just drag it and position it somewhere, and I'll just put it in this drawing, it's disappeared now from where it was over here. Okay, so we've taken the ellipse away and it's gone. And we go, well, that's not very clever. So I'm going to undo that, okay, put it back where it was. If I click on it and drag it, but hold down the Control key, it leaves this one behind, and I've got a copy of this one here, which is what I'm very happy with. That's all I need, is that one there. And I know that there's one just outside the window or just outside the wall here, so there's an inspection unit just there. That'll do. And we'll come back and trim the little pieces out of it as well later. I need another copy, so I'm grabbing this one, bringing it down here, holding the Control key. Okay. Now, because it's very difficult to hold Control, press down with your mouse, blah, 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 do all that too many times, just put it roughly here, then move my sheet up. Then I can bring it into where I want it to be. So I'm going to grab that and drop it there. Whoops, close in on. Much easier if you're closer in. So that's not bad. It's not an ideal position. Again, we've got the snap switched on, so it's jumping to the nearest point. So, I mean, that's probably good enough for doing what we need to do. And of course, this will end up trimming back to here. Now, we don't use the trim command. Just come in nice and close. We don't use the trim command to trim a piece out of the middle. Okay, we use this one, which is cutting a piece out between 2 other edges. It's deleting a segment. So if I use that one, so that was the scissors, the segment, select the bit you want, the line that you're grabbing, and you'll see you're moving, see the points moving through here. I'm going to delete from here, and you can see the little point just sitting here, and to there, and it deletes the line in between. So that's how that can be drawn. And next we'll use a copy of that in a couple of other locations. So here it is. It's gone purple, you can see. And I'll click, hold down the Control key, make a copy, pop your copy where you want it to be, there. Close in on the area that you're working on. In fact, there isn't one there, so I'm going to drag that one across to here. Hold down the Control key this time, make another copy. And now I've got the 2 copies sitting here. Are there any more inspection outlets? No, there don't appear to be. Oh yes, there actually is. There actually is up near the road. There's another one. So we'll take this and drag it up to this location here. And seeing as I've got this tool already up, select here. What's it doing? Choose the tool, select the line, pick between here and here, and it breaks it. There is another way that some people like to use. Instead of chopping the line out in between these symbols, they actually fill the symbol with white solid coloured fill. Wherever they then put the symbol, okay, it covers the line and gives the appearance that the line has broken there, and that's quite a clever approach as well. It does save one extra step, but at least in this way you're learning some new tools. All right, so they're done. Now we've just got some circles to position for the other elements in this particular drawing. So we could just use one of the circles from here and repeat it, or we could draw a circle. It doesn't actually matter. They are literally just nothing more than circles. Oh, and we haven't chopped this out yet. Let's complete this process of trimming. This one looks like it's trimmed, but that line still passes through. So if you recall, you know, that there really does need to be chopped. So select the tool, select the line, trim between here and here, select the tool, select the line between those two. Very, very neat end result will come from this. Now I must have deleted that accidentally. Not a big problem. Grab hold of this one, Control for the copy, and drop that in there. I'm not sure how I deleted it. If I look back at the video, I'm sure I'll figure out how that happened. Okay, little circles. Let's look for circles. This is the one you can use if you're clicking in the center of something. So you might say, yes, I want to be at the end of this line, and then I click and drag how big I want that circle to be. Okay, that may or may not be appropriate. I think it might be easier if I literally just click on this one, type in that I want the radius to be 50 mils, or in this case, let's say 100, otherwise it'd be too small to see. Select OK, and position it at the end of a line. Position this one at the end of this line. Now I could position it here, it lines up better. So again, it will become a choice of yours as to where you position it. And I've got that grid switched on, so it's jumping 100 millimeter increments. And is that too big? Well, it is a representation of something. It's not the real object. So you have to decide how big a circle you're going to draw. Now, this is a paper size, which I'm going to right click here so you can see. This is only an A4. Now, if you make the circle too small, that A4 will become incredibly tiny and very, very difficult to read. So I'm actually going to suggest that we do keep this symbol to be a larger version. And we may as well just drag a copy of it down here. Grab this one and copy it down here. So they're the ones I'm going to use. May as well trim properly. Right click on the line, trim back to the object, trim to the object. And if I'm not sure, trim to the object. This one's spot on anyway, so that's all looking good. Okay, are there any more circles in this location? Yes, there is. There's the WC. So right click out to finish, grab this thing, drag it across and down, holding down the control key, so I'm making a copy. And have I got one in the laundry? Yes, I do. Grab this pink one, bring it up over here into the laundry. I may as well position it there. Again, I had the control key down to make sure I was making a copy. And I've got a hot water system here, but that's blue, so we'll run with that in a minute. What else have we got? Okay, I think we're done in that location, and we now need to head up to, yeah, no, there's actually in here, there's two. I'm not sure why there's two, but there's actually two circles represented here. So I'm actually going to place one there, because it's a little bit, there's not much room. Grab this one and make a duplicate copy just there, which kind of means this line is going to look redundant, so I'm going to drag it across to there, right click this one and trim it back to there. So I hope that all makes sense. All right, you can re-look at that little piece of video again if you weren't quite sure what I was doing. All right, so they're in position. Let's come up to here, and then we can add the circles that need to go into this location. Again, it will remember the last size that you placed, because I've just chosen this command. And now you can position where you want this to start. We'll go into the kitchen, and we'll start here, here, and on this elbow. Now this elbow's in the wrong spot in my opinion. So I'm actually going to put the circle out here. Okay, I think it's at a good spot or not really. Hard to tell. I'm not sure if that was really correct, but I'm happier to actually place this in that location. Now I just accidentally clicked on the line, and by clicking on the line, the circle is now attached to the line itself. Not what I'm after. Right click out of there. Okay, how do I fix that? Hold down the control key. Okay, and I'm still clicking to the grid points, but I'm not accidentally clicking to the line itself with the diamond. Okay, so there's that there and that there. Moving into the bathroom ensuite area. Okay, zoom out a fraction. Place one here for the unit there. Oops, same problem as I had before. So is that a good spot? There's good. There's good. There's good. And that was all I needed all the way around. I'm looking at this drawing. Have I got them all now? Yes, I appear to. That appears to be all I need for the moment. So let's go back and trim these lines. Hopefully you'll remember from doing it before. Right click on the line, trim it to here. Right click on this line, trim it to here. Trim that to that. Trim that. What are we going to do here? Choices. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll actually trim that back to here. And rather than is it in a good spot? I don't think it is. I know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to take this line and this circle, and I'm going to move it over, okay, to a better position. Okay, so I think I've got that probably incorrect. I'm not quite sure how I managed to get that in the state that it's in. So I think I'm not sure the best approach here. Let's delete this one. I don't like it. I know that this was in line, so I'm going to pull that out, make the copy there, and I'm going to bring this line and join this line up with, say, the middle. Notice my cursor is a little point. See a little point, little circle? That means I found the center of the circle. Okay, I want it to be snapped to that center. Now, why isn't it snapping? Can anyone tell me? Yes, it's because we have the grid switched on. But I'm also quite happy that that's in that location, so I'm very happy just to trim that back to there. I think that looks neat enough, and it's certainly exactly as it should be, really, for what we're after. That goes to here, and I don't want to get into too many advanced things and confuse anybody at this point. So this idea of using the middle mouse button to scroll up and down and then quickly use the left mouse button to do the selection with, you do get used to it, trust me. It's no different to handling a pipe cutter. You actually do get used to how it works. Okay, I think I have everything in place for the red. I know we're going to need to move some of this text, so we will look at how that's done. Not right this minute. Let's continue doing the blue items. In fact, I'm going to do the blue items. I'm going to leave the blue items up to you. I don't think there's a need for me to show you the blue items. Or is there? Is there anything on there that you need to see? No, it's just a repeat of what we've done. So if you'd like to have a look now, well, in fact, before we do the blue, why don't we do the arrows on the red? So we've got different types of arrows. We should use red ones. And again, different ways of doing it. So I'm just going to drag this red arrow. Oops, I'm in a trim command. Right click out of there a few times, make sure I'm not in a command. Copy, hold down the control key, copy my arrow. So now I've got to decide where I want to put the arrows and how big those arrows need to be. Now this is quite a small arrow. I'm a little bit concerned that it's too small. I mean, if it's in location, yeah, it's probably good enough actually. It's probably not too bad. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that's going to look okay. So if I use that, that one's happy there. I know that I'm going to need another one down here, and this arrow is going to sit pointing upwards. Now you'll notice this is currently not pointing upwards, it's pointing the wrong way. So here we get an opportunity to learn how to rotate an object. Firstly, you have to select the object. So it was already selected, but we're going to select the object. Then we come up to the transform commands, and there's one here which is all about rotate. It's fairly obvious, rotate. And we want to make sure, because there's 4 different ways of rotating something, this one's the most useful, 3 points. Okay, it gives you an opportunity to actually move your cursor around to change the rotation. Let's just do it. No copies, we're not making duplicates. Say OK, and follow the prompt. It asks to locate the origin of the rotation. So the origin's just this point here. Then where am I grabbing it by? Well, I can grab it in this direction. Anywhere in this direction is fine. And now I've got the object. I can swing it around, point it in any direction, and then just go click. And now I know my arrow is sitting in the right direction. Now, of course, once I've got an arrow sitting in this direction, I just need to copy it for anywhere else that it's going up the screen. All right? But over here, it's going to be going in a random direction, all right? Not necessarily the exact direction that I might expect. So let's make a duplicate copy, right click out. Let's make a copy. Oh, it looks like I've actually, again, lost that. I must have moved rather than copied. So, well, here we go. What would you do? Well, I think I would grab another arrow from over here. Hold down the control key again, Nigel. You've forgotten last time. Come in, have a look really close. Is that okay? Yeah, but I don't like its position. Just position it back there. That'll do me. And then I'm going to take that one and bring it over here. Hold down the control key. Okay, position it where I want it to be. That'll do me. So you can see I've got it there. Yeah, see, it's not in the right spot for me. I'd really like it to be as close as I can. That's probably in alignment. Then I'm going to rotate it. Same idea. That can be my pivot point this time. And I'm going to rotate it down in this direction. It's not in alignment, so I just got to find where does that fit neatly on there. Now the reason it has difficulty fitting is because the angle of this pipe is nothing, it's not in alignment with any of the dots on the screen. This is where seeing the dots might be a good idea. Come up to your grid, switch the display of the dots on. Now you can see where the dots are, and you'll be able to find a dot that actually is in alignment. There's one. So that dot right there is in alignment. So there's my arrow, it works well. And looking at my sheet, I've got a range of arrows going in the opposite direction. So again, I'm going to grab this, hold down the control key, put it there, move up the sheet, move it to where I want it to go, and I've got one here, that'll do me there, I'll put it there, hold down the control key, put my duplicate in, put another arrow there, come back to this one, grab it, put it there. You only need enough arrows to indicate, you know, the actual general direction of flow. Probably worthwhile having one out the top out here. So again, click and bring one out here. Now you'll notice when I'm selecting this arrow, I'm not selecting it here because I might accidentally pick the line and drag it. I don't want to do that. I only want to drag this object. Okay, so that's why I'm picking it just on its edge like that. Okay, because that's an easier way to do it than it is here, because here I'm quite able to accidentally pick this and I'd end up pulling it out of the way and into the wrong spot as well. That's it, undo and undo. Okay. So use those commands that you've just learnt to complete the blue and the rest of the red and finish the drawing without putting text. And the next thing we're going to do after we've put all these symbols on is add text to the drawing. So give yourself 5 minutes and you should be done. Okay, I guess by now you have placed all of the blue items in position and have them where they need to be. I've actually just forgotten one here. Right click that one and trim him here, I just noticed. And the next thing we're going to do is actually put in some text. Now, if you have the text over here that you already want to use, then it's very simple to literally click and drag a piece of text that's already what you need it to say. However, it's sometimes easier just to drag any old bit of text, even if it just says XXX, and position it. I think we should switch these grid dots off from appearance, so display grid off. It's going to be a little easier to actually grab and drag the text around that we need. The first thing I'm going to do is find the IO text. Okay, so I'm looking here to see if I have the word I.O. already written. And curiously, I don't. So for whatever reason, the IO is missing from this list. So inspection outlet, somehow, there it is, it's an inspection opening, isn't there as a piece of text in the terms of IO. So what I might do is actually grab this piece of text, again, hold down the control key and position the text where I want it to be, and I'm going to have it just there. So we'll zoom in, but I don't need it to say inspection opening. I need it to say something completely different. So how do I edit this piece of text? Well, it's really simple. Double click on it. So double clicking opens up a dialog box which tells you that it is text and allows you to edit it. So Shift I, full stop, Shift O, full stop, and I have the correct text. Here too, you can change the height of the text. If you felt that this was too large, you could change it to something smaller. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm going to select OK. So now I have this IO. It's equivalent to, like, it's a good, that's what the IO basically is there for the inspection opening. I'm holding down the control key. I'm going to place another one just here. I could put one here, by the way, but I think it's messier because it's overlapping the blue line, so I'm actually going to put it just here. And give it enough space so that when it's printed it will look correct. Are there any more? Yes, in fact there's quite a few. So click and drag this bit of text around, holding down the control key, and make your duplicates wherever they need to be. So you'll see there's a range of these. So I'm selecting them and I'm going to position a few more. I've actually forgotten to put one in this corner, but I'm sure you guys will be well ahead of me and will have got one in there already. Now, it doesn't have to be just IO. There's a lot of other pieces of text around as well, and you do exactly the same with those. So in the case of over here we've got a 450mm pit, which I haven't actually drawn yet. I just drew that as a circle. Let's go and find that pit in blue. And we are looking for a pit. And there's our pit. That's the true symbol for a pit. So I want the blue one of those. I'll grab that and bring it across here, holding down the control key to make sure I've got a copy. And interestingly, this pit, I'll just come across here, this pit has already got a piece of text attached to it. And that can be quite handy. So I'm just going to place that in position. Not going to fit in the right spot. It's at this point that I would probably switch the grid off. Okay, so don't snap to the grid. And then I've got freedom of movement. I can place that wherever I like into position. Okay. If you come up closer, it gives you a little bit more ability to get it exactly where you want it. Do I want the circle? Well, I don't know. And how would I select the circle? Well, it's a bit hard, isn't it? Unless I put a window around like that. That way I'm not touching the pit box, but I am able to select the circle if I want to delete it. And in this case I actually do. I'm going to choose to delete it for the sake of what I'm doing. So back to our text. This text, you won't be able to select this text because it's still part of the original component that we inserted. The only way we'd be able to select this text is if we exploded this drawing. And I suppose we may as well show that to you. There's no reason not to know about it. But essentially it is typically a good idea just to leave this as it is, all is in one object, rather than explode it. But the advantage of exploding it is it means you can at least edit some of these items out that you don't wish to be there. So to explode, you would come up to the scissors, the bomb, you delete the existing entity, that would always be ticked, and then you'd select OK. Nothing appears to have happened except that if I now touch the text, it's an independent object. And I could use it to copy around if I liked that type of text better than I liked this type of text that I've got going up here. This is really just a bold version, I think, of this one. Okay, looking at what I can see here, there's the word org. So take that, drag it down to here where I want it to be, holding down the control key to make a copy, double click on it, type in ORG and hit OK. Because it's a longer word, it's spilling over, so just again reposition it. You could, of course, leave snapping switched on, and when you do that, at least when you are copying things around, they will stay neatly in alignment rather than being all over the place. So it's a neatness tool more than anything else. See, this one to me is too close. I really would probably pop that just a fraction further away. This WC is probably getting in the way a little bit, okay? But it does need to be there, so let's just put WC there. Ensuite, again, probably doesn't need to be so in the way of all the other line work, so I'll move that into position. And again, I do the same with the shower, just move that up there. Now, I may not want the shower itself to actually be there, so I can select it and press delete. I can do exactly the same with the sink if I don't want it there, and with the actual toilet itself, the pan can go. Do the same with this sink. You can see why I chose to explode it this time, and the dishwasher can go there if you wanted that to be there. There's no reason why you couldn't say the word sink. So we put that there across there, holding down the control key to make a copy, double click, type in sink, select OK, and the word sink is there. Go around the whole drawing and add all of the text that you see. You are going to be challenged by the text along this line because this is an angled line. And the only way to do this type of text effectively is either to copy a piece of text over and use the rotate command as you did with these types of symbols, or perhaps better still, clone the text properties. Okay, so you've got the right colors and things going on, and go to the text command, come up here to the text by rotation, an angled A, and type in here the height, 350, and up here, click and type in the actual piece of text that you wish to really place in there, and we're going to put Shift D N 100 space SEW full stop space @ symbol MIN full stop 1.65%. So that's my bit of text at 350 mil high. Select OK. There's my bit of text hanging off my cursor. I have to choose where I'm going to put it. I'm going to just scroll up here a little bit. I'm going to place it here and then just move my cursor around until I get to where I want it to be. I'm very happy with that location, and now my text is in position. The second piece of text needn't be done that way. I may as well click on that, hold down the Control key to make a copy, put that one on that side, and in this case we're going to edit this text by double clicking, and where it says 100 we're going to change that to 90, delete, 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 and it's not sewer, it is stormwater, so it's S full stop W full stop, and delete the sewer word, at a minimum of, and it'll have a number there as well, which is 1%. We don't need the 0.65. 1%. Once I'm happy with it, select OK. There it is. Right click to finish. Everything comes back. So that is the procedure. So I would suggest now that you continue your learning and add all of the rest of the text to the drawing. Okay, now thank you very much for watching me go through the process on this video. Now is the time to stop watching the video, to go back to your written tutorial and basically copy what I've been doing. Enjoy the process. Bye.